Hello and welcome back to the Villa podcast. A much happier podcast than the last time we did a post-match one. I'm here as always with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, Aston Villa 2, Brighton 0. How you doing, bro?
Mate, so much better. So much better. It feels like a weight's come off the shoulders, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Usually we it's often a late night Villa filler, but we've got an early morning, which I think is testament to a victory. Because after a loss, I don't think I'd be sat here at about 9 a.m. To record a podcast. I would have stayed in bed, mate. But no, bright and breezy this morning because of the result, and all better for it, mate.
Honestly, mate, I feel like yesterday there was so much pressure with it being Gerrard's first game, with it being a home game, with it being Brighton, and you look at the running, we've got a lot of tough fixtures coming up in December, Chelsea, City, Liverpool, all games that we've got to face home and away. And, we'd said in previous podcasts, it's as easy a start as Gerrard could have hoped for on paper. Obviously, not underestimating how tough Brighton are as opposition. Of course, this was always going to be an incredibly tough first game. And I think I've learned pretty much everything I need to know about Steven Gerrard in that 90 minutes of football we watched yesterday, Dan.
Yes. It was interesting to hear in his post-match presser that because it was a sort of the lack of pressing was agitating the stadium a little bit, weren't we?
Yeah.
We sat off Brighton and the stadium weren't very happy about it. We dealt with it in the first half, but as we got later on into the second half and that goal wasn't coming, it was, I don't want to say that the stadium was getting frustrated, but I think just perhaps a bit agitated because it was not necessarily what we were expecting. And I think that's the thing is that I think, Stevie spoke very much about what the club does out of possession is going to be perhaps key to his reign at Villa. And I think that naturally, because it's Steven Gerrard and the kind of person he is, we translate it to a very aggressive, very in-your-face, very quite high-energy pressing style. But it's interesting to hear in his post-match press conference that it was all part of a plan, that they were very happy to let Brighton have the ball amongst their defence. That was an area which they'd discussed before the game. That was something that they were it was very much in the game plan for Brighton to have the ball in those areas, and Villa were going to drop off. And I think that was a bit of a relief to hear him say that, because I think that was, around the stadium, that was providing a bit of angst. But I think it's a welcome sight on the touchline. I did enjoy seeing him down there. I think it was one of those where perhaps it happened for the best that we had to wait for the goals, because I think it's put such a good mood around the club when you have that explosion of emotion and just sheer relief. It really puts you in a good place to go through the next few games. And us, Stevie himself is no stranger to late goals. I mean, he made a career off them, really, didn't he? The archive is endless. So I suppose it's only fitting that we go and do so in the manner that we did.
I think what I liked about the interview as well, Dan, just to touch on that, is he acknowledged that the stadium got very anxious. Like, how many managers before would just go, yeah, the fans were class, but like now you could tell, like the atmosphere was generally buzzing, but there was about 10, 15 minutes of nerves, misplaced passes were frustrating. And how many times have we said, Dan, that translates to the players? And it was, I don't know, for me, I kind of enjoyed the fact that Gerrard acknowledged that, because, there's no bullshit there. He's been completely honest with us. He already, day one, it doesn't feel the need to have to sugarcoat things, because, some people might not like that he said that the atmosphere was a bit cagey at times, but I think it's completely fair. And talking about that game plan, Dan, I think, as you say, Villa were happy to let the fullbacks have that, because Brighton didn't play with a recognised striker until about 75 minutes when Neil Maupay came on. And of course, Cucurella and Tariq Lamptey, two of the league's most exciting wing backs. But if you've not got a striker to put the ball into, their job's pretty redundant. So yeah, why not let them have the ball in them positions? I think what's interesting as well, some sort of overlaps, which is to be expected with a team that's just, sacked the manager in Dean Smith. One thing that impressed me, and I think is something that we don't, or very rarely ever actually gave credit to Dean for, the defence defended quite narrowly and compact. I think, for the past 3 years, Villa have been set up to defend balls into the box. And again, that wasn't really that much of a threat today or an issue. But I felt like the defence handled everything with ease, especially the corners. Now, Tyrone Mings, I really felt the pressure for Tyrone Mings yesterday. I got to admit, there's a few times where my dad said I just had to chill the fuck out because I was so uptight. Because every sort of pass he misplaced, it frustrated me because I felt like that's his opportunity going away. But defensively, he was imperious, Dan, winning every header against the back three that contains, Lewis Dunk and Webdini, who always scores against us. Is no mean feat, and Duffy as well, mate. 3 huge defenders. Brighton score a lot of goals from set pieces, and I'm convinced every single corner that went in, Tyrone Mings, was able to clear that ball away with his head. So, what a performance from him, mate.
Yeah, good to see. Good to see. And the goal meant a lot as well, especially coming off the back of his England goal as well. Happy for the boys in the back line. I think there was only a couple of times, you think back to maybe a few moments in the first half. Emi makes a save at his near post from Trossard, and then one from Lamptey, wasn't it? And those are the only 2 moments where I feel like we really had to do some defending. It's like back to the wall defending as close as it comes, really. And so that was good, because Brighton were a side that it was strange to see them operate without a striker. And it was weird in a way, because it felt like a sort of just like a City in a microcosm, because City are going through a very similar thing without a striker, aren't they? And it's sort of how interesting to see when, because it was weird, because one thing I always do after a game is I go onto the opposition Twitter and look at their full-time tweet just to see what the fans are saying. And loads of Brighton fans are saying, well, they were annoyed that they didn't play a striker, and loads of fans were like, well, what can you do when you've got no recognised striker in the squad? I'm like, you brought Neil Maupay on.
Yeah.
Like, you had one on the bench, and it's a weird approach. And look, it works for some teams. We've seen so many examples in the last sort of 10 years where, mainly on an elite stage, we've seen sides operate without strikers. I mean, the lauding example is always those early Spain squads of sort of 2012 and stuff like that. And so it can be done. Whether you can do it with Brighton, and that's no disrespect to them, but I mean, we're talking about 2 very different caliber of sides there as well, Spain and in Brighton. So I'm not sure whether it translates as well. And it was they kept the ball very comfortably, and I think that's something that we need to do ourselves. It's a point that I think Jamie Redknapp made a few weeks ago, perhaps when we played Arsenal, I think, or something like that. And he said, Villa don't look comfortable on the ball. And I think this is something that Gerrard needs to instill. When we get on the ball, it's very frantic, it's very haphazard. And I think that's naturally because when we're at home, we want to make things happen. They want to get the fans on side and stuff like that. So it's not something that is a massive quarrel of mine. It's just that when we get on the ball, it's not very level-headed. It's not very calm. There's not a system. The players are very frantic. As you said, there's those misplaced passes. I think that's something that Gerrard needs to instill, just that calmness, because Brighton were able to stroke the ball around yesterday. And whilst we were obviously playing on the counter-attack, obviously there is that natural responsibility to get the ball forward as quickly as you can. You need to be collected and calm about it. You need to be precise. And I still think that when Villa get on the ball, there's the roar of the crowd and the players like, there's a panic, that it's not quite cohesive yet. But that will come. That will come in time once Gerrard and probably more specifically Michael Beale gets his footprint on things. And so, it's one of those where hopefully there are, Gerrard said himself, there's plenty of things that we can improve on. I think individually as well. Ollie Watkins, what a goal, mate, but it wasn't his finest 90, was it? I think we really need to figure out what to do with Watkins and Ings. Maybe we persist with Watkins out in that wide role, but he was so much better once he moved to the centre. Danny is a real enigma at the moment, because I don't mind him not being in games. I don't mind him looking a bit lost out there at times, because we haven't bought him to be a key figure in the build-up play, and
No.
that his role is not that. His role is, once that ball rolls across the 18-yard box, he's the man that's going to smash it in. And I still trust him in that. So I don't mind it if he's not 100% involved with everything that goes on, because that's not what he's there to do. He's there to finish the chances once they arrive to him in the box. But I mean, what Ollie clearly benefited so much from staying on. I thought it was a great substitution from Stevie, because I thought it was going to actually be Ollie that was taken off for Leon Bailey. He brought Danny off, and bear the fruits of that. So it's great to see all three substitutions really came on and did very well. So you've got to give Stevie a lot of credit there, because in Young and El Ghazi and in Bailey, when all those three players on the pitch, that's when we created the most. So I think you've got to tip your hat to the new gaffer there.
Yeah, I think, like, for me, it was a frustrating hour for Ollie Watkins. It was frustrating to watch because, listen, he's been asked to play a different position, and I'm not going to sit here. It would be completely wrong of me, Dan, to sit here and say, oh, he should be playing through the middle. Because how long have I been saying he should play this position, Dan? And I believe it as well. But he doesn't want to play this position, and you can tell that. That was very clear. He did not look happy whatsoever, which was something I was a bit disappointed with. I can understand not being happy playing in a position that you're not as familiar with. Maybe it's just he needs time to understand the roles, the responsibilities of that position. But he looked a completely different player for the 30 minutes where he was down the middle, and it's a really difficult one, mate, because on paper, it doesn't necessarily read as well for Danny Ings. Obviously, I think he touched the ball 18 times yesterday. But as you say, mate, you don't necessarily have to have your striker that involved in the build-up play. 90% pass accuracy. He won all of his duels, aerial and on the ground. So, he puts himself about when he needs to. And listen, that don't get us twisted there. This is we know how hard Danny Ings actually works. When we're talking about involvements, I think we are talking about directly on the ball, off the ball. You couldn't ask for any more from Danny Ings. But yeah, I mean, I worried for Ollie, and as soon as he cut inside, mate, I mean, we'll talk about the build-up for the goal first of all, and actually what led to that. Because for me, and I tweeted about this, Dan, bringing Ashley Young on the wing was a weird one for me.
Agreed.
Because, well, first things first, we see Ashley Young warming up. A few people around me in the Holte going, "Oh, it's Target coming off." I'm thinking Target's been bloody phenomenal, and then I'm thinking, "Oh, well, it better not be for JJ. It better not be, he better not be coming on in centre mid, because, I mean, I'm still having nightmares about that West Ham game." And then to see him on the wing, it didn't excite me. And it didn't work. I think everyone's on Twitter going, Ashley Young coming on, genius move. The genius move was bringing El Ghazi on 5 minutes later. Mm-hmm. Gerrard recognising that it wasn't working, putting an actual winger on there with pace. Because, listen, we love Ashley Young to bits, Dan. We absolutely do. This is no Ashley Young slander. But if you're a winger, you've got to be able to beat a man. And unfortunately, at 36 years old, Ashley Young just ain't going to be able to do that. So putting out El Ghazi on for me, absolute masterstroke of the game, who, again, Anwar, fantastic 20 minutes. Wow, how good was he, on a side note? But then in that build-up, I mean, Ashley Young, phenomenal. The way he carried the ball. I mean, took three players with him, released that ball for Ollie. And the run from Anwar out wide that created the space for Ollie to come inside. Brilliant. As soon as Ollie dropped the shoulder and came in, Dan, I was thinking, if this man don't score, it's curtains. It is absolute curtains, because the pass was on for Traore. He could have even given it for Bailey. He could have even given it back to El Ghazi. But for me, as soon as I saw him open his body up, I'm thinking, if you ain't scoring, mate, that's it. Yeah. That is like, because as I say, the first hour, it was so difficult to watch him because he just wasn't comfortable, and I shouldn't have doubted him because wow, what a finish it was, mate. The power, the accuracy, the way he managed to curl that ball and score his first goal in front of a full Holte end, Dan. It was wonderful. I mean, you probably had a better view of it from the side, mate, because I think you'd have probably thought the same as me though. This is Leon's ball.
It was one of those, mate, where you're absolutely right. Because it hadn't been the best game, and you were sort of looking at him like that's a make or break moment. I think that there's only one person in the ground that wouldn't have celebrated that like an absolute madman. That's probably Danny Ings.
Yeah,
Danny Ings watched that goal and I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, because it means that yet again, I think Ollie's probably going to get preferential treatment out of those two. It'd be interesting to see what happens as a result. But you're right. It's gilt-edged, and that's why, in a way, it's very easy to say this, then they've scored it. But that's what you want from your striker, isn't it? That's what you want. It's, at the end of the day, it's their job to score the goals. You want it to feel like their responsibility. You want it to feel like, no, I know there's that pass, but I'm going to back myself. I'm going to back myself to hit the back of the net and make it my moment. And that confidence is good. Had it that been fired into the Holte end, I probably wouldn't be saying this on the podcast, mate. But no, great for Ollie. So happy, and wow, the roof came off, mate. Just an explosion of relief. The celebrations from Gerrard were great. I'm never going to get tired of seeing that display of passion on the sideline. Amazing to see. I think, as I said, there's been a couple of games this season where it's just been pure bedlam, and I felt like yesterday it was just emotional. People were hugging each other. I was hugging the guy next to me. I went to the game with my mum. I took my mum to the first time. She loves the Villa, bless her. And it was so nice just to have that moment with her, with my arms around her. I picked her up at one point, I think. It was,
love that.
People were running down the stairs to hug strangers. It looked like the stewards were getting involved as well. Like, it's like that Paul Merson, when Aguero scores. He's in tears. He's like, they've got love bites and everything. It's like that. Just beautiful, mate. Beautiful to see that. And I referenced the Everton game before we came on air, mate, in terms of just how it feels. And Villa have this amazing thing under the lights at night when we're attacking the whole team, where once we get one goal, we feel like we could just get 10.
Yeah.
It's crazy, isn't it? Like, the opposition just seemed to totally disintegrate. And we just feel like a side that, like, Tyrone scores. And it's like, if we had played another half an hour, I think we would have ended with like 5 or 6 goals. I don't know what it is. It happened against Everton as well. And there's been countless occasions throughout the year where once that noise picks up and the boys are going at the Holte end in full cry and we've already got that 1 goal lead, it just feels like we could get more and more and more. And that's amazing, but it also just makes you feel like, man, if we could score after 20 minutes, we'd be one of the best sides in the league, wouldn't we? Because we'd have that from the start. And Stephen spoke about that as well. And this is what I like, mate. I love that I keep coming back to. It's good. The managers reference this, the gaffers reference this, because and that in a recent few weeks, there have been a few, questionable answers in his press conferences from Dean and stuff like that, which I think is unfortunately a sign of times, perhaps a sign of the cracks starting to show and stuff like that. And it's great to see from a fan's perspective that the gaffer's picked up on everything and he's already one step ahead. And hopefully all the things that we're referencing are going to be worked on at Bodymore, first full week at Bodymore this week. And if we can go and get that win at Palace before welcoming City to Villa Park, man, oh man, that is, bring your fucking dinner, mate. That game, you're not going to want to miss, mate. That is it's going to be warfare. And yeah, mate, you just hope if we can go to Selhurst Park and pick up those 3 points when we come back, first game of December, under the lights, midweek at Villa Park, bringing Joe Grealish back to Villa Park. Fuck me, mate. Wow.
It's going to be carnage, bro, isn't it? Honestly,
yeah, it's some night.
It's exciting. I mean, I get there's just something magical, as you say, Villa Park under the lights. Football at Christmas time. We've got so many games. It's so exciting. And yeah, I mean, if you weren't already convinced by Steven Gerrard, I hope you are. Or I hope, this is the first step in him winning you over. because I don't know. It was just one of them. I think it's I think he's only one of 4 managers now to have won their first game in the Premier League, which is
he's the first manager in our lifetime to win their opening Premier League fixture. Can you believe that? The last one was John Gregory in 1998.
It's crazy, isn't it? I mean, it's so positive, and I'm almost lost for words, mate. We've had a lot of time to mull over this and really, get excited and think about what we have
nice
to
say. See you happy, mate.
Yeah,
see you with a smile.
That's it, and as well, I completely forgot to mention this, but shout out to a very kind listener who approached me in the Holte yesterday. I forgot to ask you for your name, but yeah, that it meant the world. So someone said they enjoy the podcasts. So yeah, I mean, what a day overall. I mean, I think it was for me. There's clearly still things to work on. This is nowhere near the finished article, by the way. So we aren't getting carried away here. But what impressed me as well, the space between the midfield and the attack was much better when Villa were on the front foot. The defence was more compact. Matty Target, wow, what a game this guy had, mate. What a game he had with Tariq Lamptey as well, who, if we're being honest, hasn't probably had the best year. I think he kind of peaked early last season and has been quiet since then. But when you're dealing with a pace merchant, I mean, we all know Target generally folds. So to see him put in a performance like he did yesterday was it just filled me with happiness, man. Because 7 tackles from Matt Target, and we're guilty of this, mate. We're almost trying to sell him because we're worried that he's not going to fit into the Gerrard mold of a fullback, and for him to put in a performance like that has really reassured me. That was brilliant, and again, if you look at the average positions as well, you can see everything. It's there. Steven Gerrard's going to be happy with that first 90 minutes of football that he's seen. The forwards are narrow, the fullbacks are wide. It is that 3-4-3 out of possession. You can see that quite clearly on the average positions. It's everything that Steven Gerrard could hope for, really, with his first game. I know we heard him say, he dreamt of that result, which was again, it was just a nice touch. And I think we've got a real classy manager, mate. We've got a real classy manager. Palace will present another difficult task, mate, because formation wise, they're going to match us, so that'll be interesting. I think we'll be highlighting the individual battles a lot more there on the pitch. So I mean, Marvelous Nakamba, I thought had a good game, and I mean, this guy gets second win, man. 75 minutes. This guy's the fittest man about. Only criticism with Marv is just knowing what to do with the ball after he's won it. Because if this man was able to sort of pick out a sort of 20, 30 yard pass, ping a ball over the top of the defence, then it's curtains for Douglas Luiz. But I thought Marv had a good game. JJ as well. Wow, Steven Gerrard's going to turn this kid into a monster, mate, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He is right. He said it on Match of the Day as well, which is it's good to see JJ's name starting to get about there at some people's tongues, and that's what I want to see, mate. I thought McGinn, class, does so much. It's like you sort of wish if you could just get McGinn and Marv and just you'd have the best midfielder in the league. It's like JJ as well, man. I think there's a few things to his game which I think he's got all the technical ability in the world, man. I want to see positionally. I think he needs to show a bit more, because I think when we're struggling to get out the defence, when things are a bit stagnated, Jay, you've got the ability to, on the turn, as who you used to do. You used to come into midfield, pick up the ball, and on the turn, run at defences. And it's like just little things like that where we're struggling to get the ball out the defence. Unfortunately, when you've got midfield of Marvin, McGinn and JJ, it's JJ's responsibility to perhaps show a little bit more. And I think positionally, there's a few things to work on. And that's what I'm excited, mate, is Gerrard is going to, these midfielders, is going to work a dream. I'm so excited to see what he can become. And not just him as well, but all the other young boys in that in that squad. It was Keenan on the touchline as well, back on the bench as well yesterday. So he's be interesting to see what kind of future Keenan holds, because it was looking a bit like it was over, wasn't it? Under Dean, it was like he'd seen that Baggies game at the end of last season was going to be his Villa swan song.
Carnage.
Yes. But no, it'd be interesting to see what comes of him, mate. So all eyes are on the next few games now, in this run up to Christmas, and just to see what we can do, mate. I think that's we can start to set targets and get a full picture in January. But just run up to Christmas now, I'm just excited to see what the makeup is and see just how far Gerrard can take this side in such a short space of time.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. And finally, you think I wasn't going to mention XG? Come on. 0.59 for Villa compared to Brighton 0.29. Now, I was having a debate last night on COD with the boys. Of course, it was with a Blues fan as well, James. We love him, but everyone has their problems. And we were talking about Dean and Norwich, and I said, listen, because reading it, looking at Match of the Day, Southampton should have won that game, right? Let's not kid ourselves. So I was like, new manager bounce. That's what it is. And a lot of common sense was applied in that game as well, because first of all, not to go on about Dean too much. I'm trying to get to a point here. You have to play 4-2-3-1 if you're Norwich, and you have to play Billy Gilmore, and you have to play Todd Cantwell. That's just common sense. Daniel Farke completely lost the plot not playing them two. So Dean comes in, does that, gets a bit of a lucky win. I say it's a new manager bounce, and all of us, I'm kind of explaining what's going on in this game, and my mates are going, well, how do you know this isn't the new manager bounce? I'm like, no, you're not hearing what I'm saying. Like, Norwich got lucky, Villa didn't get lucky. We executed a game plan very well. I think that's the important note. I think we should probably end the podcast on, Dan. Long may that continue. Crystal Palace away, it's gonna be carnage, mate. I wasn't looking forward to it under Smith, I can't lie, but now, mate, I just get me in that away end. I cannot wait.
Wait.
And as well, I think we've just hit 4,800 subscribers, Dan, which is absolutely mental. So if we can hit 5,000 by the end of the year, that would genuinely just be absolutely crazy. So if you guys are watching this podcast and aren't subscribed, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell notification so you never miss a podcast or a video from us here at Heart of the Holte. And if you enjoyed, hit a like and comment your thoughts below on that performance. We'd love to hear. So yeah, as I say, if you enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe, and up the Villa.